Hi everyone, I'm Crystal Ortiz and would like to welcome you to my podcast, Crystal Clear. In this podcast, I share content concerning ideas, thoughts, and knowledge. Today's topic for this very first episode is that of reflection. Hi everyone, my name is Crystal Ortiz, and I am so excited to say welcome to my podcast, Crystal Clear. I'm so excited to finally be able to say that. This is an idea I've had for the last couple of months. Now, I felt like I wanted a platform where I could share ideas and knowledge with other people, and I think a platform was the best way to execute this idea. Now, I don't really know where I'm going with this podcast, but I'm so glad I had the guts to get this one started. Now, it's kind of insane how overlooked reflection can be because it is so important to grow. It's so important to growth. It is so important to improve who you are via reflecting. There's going to be different topics, different themes, different ideas covered in this podcast that is mainly meant for people to observe this knowledge and grow with it. I'm going to share a few details about me, about who I am, just so you guys can know a little bit about me. My name is Cristal Ortiz. I am currently 19 years old, and I am a second year at Duke University. I'm originally from North Carolina, and a fun fact about me is that I am a Capricorn. With that being said, I felt like a great theme to end off this year with would be a theme of reflection. I think reflection is so important, and it's so overlooked that it's kind of insane how overlooked reflection can be because it is so important to grow. It's so important to growth. It is so important to improve who you are via reflecting. So for this podcast, I thought it would be important to introduce the idea of reflection and have it in a way where it can help you reflect over this year of 2022 to help you grow. And I'm going to divide this podcast into 5 main parts, which would be the following of reflection, acknowledging, learning, moving on, and implementing the knowledge, which is a big one that often gets overlooked. So first of all, when we think of reflection, we often may think of an image of you in front of a mirror, looking at a mirror as a reflection, reflection of yourself. That's what reflection is. It's looking at yourself, but looking at yourself at a deeper intent, at a deeper level, dissecting yourself, which can be really hard. It can be really hard. That's okay. We're gonna break it down. Right now, it's the end of the year. It's the perfect time to look at this past year, see your progress, find closure, and reflect. Now, people have a big habit of saying, do not look at your past. It doesn't help your future. You don't need your past you for your future self. But personally, I do not agree with that ideology. I think it's so important to look at your past, but learn from it. Often, the mistake when it comes to reflecting is you look at your past, but you get stuck in that past. And that's where things go wrong because that's not how reflection works. That's reminiscing. That's not reflection. So, the idea of reflection is to look at your past, look at what happened, and accept what happened, and see how that scenario had that action caused a reaction. What factors played in this? Did you have a role in whatever happened in your past year? Was it something you could not control? It's reflecting on what happened, observing. Now, the catch is when people reflect, they often go to their past and they get stuck there. That's where it goes wrong. That's where it goes downhill because that's reminiscing. Once again, that's not reflection. That's often people go to their past and then they start playing scenarios and trying to see what could have happened if I said this, did that, do something else. And it goes to a path, a rabbit hole of like fake scenarios of like what could have happened if this happened instead or something else happened. And often we're like people will reflect and go into reminiscing and then spend so much time in trying to figure out what could have happened if outside factors that you cannot control went differently. That was something you couldn't control, that you did not have any power over. So there's no point in going back and reflecting and not reflecting, excuse me, reminiscing over that scenario because you couldn't do anything about it, you know? But you can go back to that scenario situation and learn from it, which is why reflecting is so important. I feel like people often just get so stuck in the present and the future, which is good, but you also need to learn from your past so you can establish a good foundation of improvement for your present and future self. And that is so important so that you don't repeat the same scenario, same mistakes that do not help your growth, that inhibit your growth. So, with that being said, personally, on a personal note, I feel like I'm always on a go type of mindset. What's next? What's coming? I have a to do list, an agenda. Sometimes I'm like double checking this agenda, triple checking it, and always wondering, oh, what's coming up? What's next? What's next? So it was really hard for me to sit down and reflect on what I've done. First of all, I had to like plan it in my schedule to do it, but I gave time to myself to do that because it is so important. I did not realize how important that was into this year because not only does reflecting allow you to observe what happened, but allows you to really accept what happened and acknowledge it, which is the next stop, which is the next step to reflecting. We'll come to that in a bit. Really important to take time to do it. Now, how can we take time to do that? There's many ways to do different forms of reflecting. Personally, my favorite way and the way that I'm going to show you how I did reflecting was through journaling. Um, I literally have a notebook and where I journal and write down my thoughts. I honestly thought journaling was kind of dumb. When I first started, I was like, "When am I doing this?" I feel like a middle schooler doing this. Um, but honestly, we shouldn't see stuff that helps us in a bad way. Journaling is such a big thing in my life right now because when I think of it like this, your mind, the human brain can actually only hold 5 to 7 things when it comes to working memory, when it comes to managing your attention. 5 to 7 things. That's the average. And you can think of like 5 to 7 things sounds like a good amount of things. You know what I mean? It sounds like a good amount. But there's so many things going out in your outside world, all the stimuli, talking to other people, having your own thoughts. There's a lot going on. So 5 to 7 things is very limited. Your brain can only focus on 5 to 7 things. So sometimes all these things can be more than 7 things. There's so many thoughts going on, things that are coming up, worries you may have, stresses that you may have, or just excitement, emotions you may have, which is okay. That's all a part of being human, of having all these thoughts, all of these ideas. But your brain can only take so much. Your mind can only take so much. It has a limit. You have a limit, and you need to accept that limit and work around that limit. So journaling allows you to gather these thoughts that may seem chaotic in your head and writing them down and throwing up, like spitting out these ideas, these thoughts, the knowledge, the emotions, whatever you have in your mind, and seeing it out on a piece of paper. Maybe you're not a visual person. If you are a visual person, this could be perfect for you. But spitting out these ideas, seeing them laid out on a piece of paper, and saying, okay, I know what's in my mind. I can see it out here. I can organize it. I can accept it. I can hold on to it in this piece of paper and come back to it. and worry about it, because maybe at this moment I don't have time, energy to really focus on these ideas. But I'm acknowledging, which is the second step of reflecting, that I have these ideas, these emotions, these thoughts, and having it here. Whether these thoughts have been from the day of or from a while back, weeks back, months back, maybe even years back. But you've written it down so you're not holding on to it. Because often people will like hold on to thoughts and things and emotions that does not let them function to do anything else. That's okay. That is completely okay. That's normal. But you want to make sure it doesn't weigh you down so much that you cannot grow, that you cannot progress, that you cannot move on in life. So journaling is a great way to kind of collect your thoughts, gather them down, write them down, and really think about what's going on. How can I deal with this? Can I come back to this later? If I can, then I will, because there might be other things I need to worry about. And you come back to it later time to reflect, really gain your thoughts and see what you can learn from that, how you can improve it, which is a later step of reflection process. But one of the best ways is to reflect. Find your best way of reflecting. That's my way of reflecting, which is what I'm sharing with you guys. There's many different other ways out there to reflect. There is great YouTubers out there that I listen to, and they have different forms of reflecting. I mean, each person has their own form of reflection, which is okay. We're all human, we're all different. Personally, I am just going to share the journaling one for now. Maybe in a future date, I'll show more reflecting ways, but as me, to my personal lifestyle, journaling fits more easily, it's more accessible, it's more doable for me. So that's what's working for me at the moment. Now, the next step in this progress process of reflecting is acknowledging. I feel often people don't really acknowledge that there's things in life that have happened to them, or there's traits of themselves that are not the best. And it's such a big step to acknowledge those things. Journaling allows you to acknowledge. You go through your mind, you acknowledge what's really clearing your mind at the moment, or what is something that happened to you in this past year that you've been holding on to. It allows you to acknowledge, yeah, I have this in my head, I have this in my life. Let me put it down somewhere so I can come back to it. Well, when you come back to it, you have to acknowledge that this did happen, that whatever situation in your life happened, and you can't change it, but you can learn from it, which is the next step after acknowledging. But the first step to take a look at yourself. Many people call a work of looking deep into yourself as shadow work. Um, Honestly, I just figure it's like reflection. Some people call it shadow work. You can call it whatever you want. Well, the idea of shadow work is that every person has their own shadow that's always there with them. Wherever they go, throughout their whole life, there's always that little shadow you have. And it never goes away because it's part of you. And the idea of shadow work is looking into that shadow that you don't really look to and seeing your deeper self and understanding yourself as who you are, where your weaknesses, where your strengths. Because honestly, you have to be true to yourself. You can't lie to yourself. If you want to improve, you have to be truthful to yourself, no lies, and accept what it is, that you have your personality that helps you or that does not help you. It can be mindset, it can be habits, it can be who you're talking to, who you allow in your life, what you do in your free time, or it can be in stress, anxiety. It could be anything. And it can be hard. It can be really hard. Sometimes you want to lie to yourself, and it could be either like shaping a past scenario in a way that helps your brain, helps your emotions. You like make it better, make it a little flawless, but you can't do that. If you're doing a reflection, you have to look at a moment of how it was, how it played out, what was your role in that moment, and improve it. So you have to be honest with yourself. You can't lie to yourself. And often, sometimes people don't grow because they make certain situations in your life better than it is. In the mind, loves doing that. The mind will modify memories, modify situations to make it better. Sometimes it could be a traumatic situation and where your brain like tries to protect you from trauma in the past, and it literally modifies your memory and it makes you believe that something happened instead of what really happened. So it's really important to really be truthful to yourself and not be deceived by your own mind, because your mind can do that to you. There's two more final steps to reflection, to reflecting, the process of reflection. And those two steps are moving on and implementing your knowledge gained. Now these are the two hardest stages, if you ask me. When it comes to reflecting, I mentioned earlier that people like to get stuck in the past. They like to reminisce and stay there because they're so fond with the good memories of whatever happened in their life. Or maybe they're confused with what could have happened instead. But sometimes you have to accept that you can't change your past, but you can learn from it. And that is such a big theme to take part of your life to help your growth, to help you improve in your life. It's so easy to tell someone to move on, but it's a progress. And it's not some linear progress that just goes up all the time. It's dynamic. It goes up, it goes down, it could go up again, it could go down. It's not consistent and it can change. And that's okay. That's a process of moving on from whatever happened in your life and reflecting. Often, when people are going through this whole dynamic progress, they get stuck in places. For example, someone can have a high, maybe a low, and once they hit that low, it's like they kind of hit a wall and stay there. And it's okay. It's actually okay to stay down here for a bit. But don't get comfortable. Do not get comfortable down here. That doesn't help you. That doesn't help your growth. You're just staying in one place, and life is not about staying in one place. Do not allow yourself to get stuck. In the process of reflecting, you can grieve whatever happened, whatever did not go your way. Maybe you felt something that you really wanted. You lost someone who you really wanted in your life. And sometimes you can have just a bad day, and that's normal. That's okay. That's part of being human. But it's important to not get comfortable once you hit a low. It's so important not to get stuck down here because you need to keep moving on. Moving on is such an important part of reflection, but you have to trust the process and you have to allow yourself to grow. It's all about your mindset, about who you are, and how you can change. These 5 steps may sound like a lot, it can be, but if you break it down and go slow at your own pace, it's very doable and you can improve yourself in the long run. How can you improve yourself in the long run? By implementing your knowledge. Often we have lessons in life that we learn, but we never really put in practice the knowledge we learned, and we repeat the same mistakes. And that's where we go wrong. That's what we cannot do. We cannot repeat the same mistakes. Because reflection allows you to learn past scenarios so that if it doesn't help you, you don't repeat them again. But if something that does help you grow a good habit, you can learn from it, change it to maybe improve it any more, to maybe improve it even more, and it can help you grow even more in the long run. Implementing the knowledge you've gained is really important. Don't ignore the lessons you've learned. I wanted to end this podcast with a closing quote by Confucius, and the quote goes as follows: By 3 methods we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is noblest. Second, by imitation, which is the easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. I want you guys to use reflection as a tool to help your own growth in life. It is so important to learn and to implement your knowledge that can be gained through reflection. if you listen to this whole upload of my podcast, I am really thankful for you. Thank you for listening. I want to continue sharing ideas, knowledge with other people because it means a lot to me. With that being said, I hope you guys have a great day. And I hope you guys value and grow with knowledge.
Baby, you can